Warning: the following podcast contains spoilers about the movie in this episode. If you haven't seen the movie yet, then you're in the right place.
Neither have we. We strongly advise you to watch it along with us and join in the discussion afterwards. Or not. We're not your daddy. Actually, yeah, we are. Salutations, good people. Welcome to Who Hasn't Seen That?
We Haven't Seen That, a podcast where we watch all of those movies that we should have seen by now.
When was the last time you were talking to a friend and they said, hey, remember that part in The Shining where Jack Nicholson goes crazy? And you're like, well, actually, I've never seen The Shining. What? You haven't seen The Shining? And then it's a whole thing, and they talk to you about how much better they are than you, and they go on to say, let me guess, you haven't seen this movie either. And of course you haven't, because you're you. But we're here to help you.
Yep, and they always follow up with, who hasn't seen that? Because, really, who hasn't?
Who hasn't?
I guess us and the other 5% that haven't.
Right.
But that's what we're here to do today. Josh and I guess we started this podcast because when you moved in, we started talking about, hey, I've never seen The Shining. You're like, I haven't seen The Shining either. So we said we were going to sit down to watch it, and a year later, here we are.
We're finally getting around to it.
And what a better excuse than to do this podcast, sit down and have a discussion not only with ourselves, but with you guys. Those that, I mean, even if you have seen The Shining, maybe it's your favorite movie, watch it along with us anyways, and just, I don't know, enjoy yourself.
And check out our review here in just a few minutes.
Yeah. So, Josh, the movie that we're talking about today is
The Shining.
Ooh. So, spoiler alert, there are going to be spoilers in this episode about The Shining. We're not going to hold back. And unfortunately, it's one of those movies, it came out May 23rd, 1980, so it's been around a little while. We've all seen the meme of Jack Nicholson frozen like a popsicle. So, it's kind of unavoidable at this point. So, going into this, we do kind of have a loose idea of what the movie is about. But we've never really seen it, and we don't know how or why Jack goes crazy.
I just know that Jack is a writer of some sorts.
Yeah.
And I believe he's at this remote location.
Yeah, they're at a hotel.
They're at a hotel.
Yeah, that much I do know. And we all know Red Rum.
Yeah.
Like.
Right. But I've never sat down and read the plot, or
I haven't either.
I don't know how I've went 32 years and have not watched or really understood fully what The Shining is truly about.
Well, we're about to change that here in just a couple of minutes.
Right, I'm excited.
Little backstory about The Shining. So it stars Jack Nicholas as Jack Torrance.
Nicholas?
Did I say Jack Nicholson? I wrote down Jack Nicholas for some reason.
Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nicholas. Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. Shelley Duvall as Wendy Torrance. And Danny Lloyd as their son, Danny Torrance. And it is based off the novel by Stephen King. Loosely based, I should say. Apparently, I was doing a little bit of research on this, and Stanley Kubrick...
King don't like Kubrick.
Yeah. So, screenplay by Stanley Kubrick and Diane Johnson, and it was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it is rated R. Yeah, you want to... I think we went over a little bit of trivia earlier today. I know... Did you write some down? I have some written down here.
I just have my one.
Cool. So I'll throw out a couple. Speaking of King and Kubrick, King was very disappointed with this film, describing it as a fancy car with no engine because it was a lot of surface level, fancy imagery and things like that, but really no substance to it because he made a couple of his own changes, and Kubrick is noted as not being a huge fan of King's writing. And it is also among the early half-dozen films to use the newly developed Steadicam, most notably the tricycle shot with little Danny going through the hallway, ran it on a Steadicam. So that's exciting.
That is fascinating. Yeah, that it started. It was one of the pioneers.
Yeah,
that's insane. So my one and only fact, and it's not even a complete fact. So I'll give you guys some homework to do and find it out for yourself and drop it in the comments whenever you get this answer to the question that I'm about to pose. So with The Shining, there was a lot of aerial footage taken. Mm-hmm. I want to say it's something crazy like days worth of aerial footage. And Kubrick had this, and he clearly didn't use it all because, I mean, movie's 2 hours long. What does he need?
Days worth, yeah.
Days worth of aerial footage. So I was watching a roundtable discussion with directors of really famous and some old directors, and I can't remember which director it was and which movie it was, but they needed aerial footage for that same hotel or that same land, or something
same
that
area maybe.
He knew Kubrick would have had. He called up Kubrick and said, hey, Stanley, do you by chance have some aerial footage? And he goes, yeah, I got like about a week's worth.
Yeah.
So he sent it to him, and that footage was used in said popular movie. The popular movie escapes me, and the director escapes me.
That's a good fact,
So
though.
if you want to do some homework and find out a little fun fact for yourself, or find out or complete that fun fact, be my guest. Let us know in the comments.
Any predictions before we let the listeners loose and let them go watch The Shining for themselves?
You know, I would say, like, so my biggest question is, how does Jack end up as a popsicle outside? And I don't have a really good prediction for that, but I'm going to throw one out there.
Okay.
I would say Shelley Duvall traps him somehow outside. I don't know how or in what way.
That seems to be the most, like, logically speaking, that's how I would say it too.
Yeah.
Like Shelley has to trap him outside, right?
Yeah.
I don't see in any scenario that he would just go stand in the snow. I don't know. I mean, it depends on what goes wrong with him.
It seems like he's going mad throughout the film. So, in another full disclosure is that you and I have both seen tons of clips. Like, I think most people have. If you're older
it's hard to miss them, you know?
If you're older than the age of 23, you've probably seen so many clips. But yeah, you see a development of him going absolutely mad.
Yeah.
So perhaps he gets, I don't know, stuck mentally, or Shelley traps him, or something, and it looks like he dies a madman. Yeah. Because of the look on his face from the meme.
And then my prediction, I'm thinking, because I want to know how he goes mad. Like, what is it? And I have
maybe it's his writing, maybe it's his books.
That's what so part of me is thinking maybe it's something to do with the typewriter, because he's always I think he does. I don't know, I feel like every scene I see he's like on a typewriter. Like maybe it's something with the typewriter, either that or it's like cabin fever, like he's just like, I don't know, there's a lot of snow, so maybe they're snowed in, you know.
Well, I've seen
and he
scenes,
just goes stir crazy, like.
Yeah, I've seen scenes where he's at the hotel bar and he's by himself, so he's drinking. And I wonder how much of a theme his drinking will play into this.
That's a good point, too. All right, well, those are some pretty good predictions, I think. We'll find out whether we were right, wrong, or how close we were. And as for you guys, go ahead and pause this podcast, pop in The Shining on VHS or find it on a streaming service or something, and just watch along with us, and then come back for our review. And join in on the discussion either on YouTube or hit us up on Twitter. Right now, at Official CS Pod, we're not really doing a whole. I don't know what we're doing this right now. I might cut this part out.
Okay,
but some kind of discussion with us. Yeah, hit us up.
All right.
But we're gonna take a quick break and then come back for the wrap up and the prediction or the review.
Here's Johnny.
Here's Johnny.
Since the dawn of time, the human race has been deprived of originality, quality entertainment, and astute fart jokes. But no longer shall we must endure such a painstaking and laborious experience. From highlighting colossal creators, stitching together scrumptious skits, and pouring their hearts out into a 5-time Emmy Award-winning... Your mom's a 5-time Emmy Award-winning... globally/internationally recognized podcast. Subauricular superstars Josh and Trey of the CS... Wait a minute. What do you guys actually do? What even are you?
Yes. We're the CS Podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Trey.
Watch and listen to us on YouTube.
Or just listen on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
And as soon as you pick that platform, come hang right now.
We'll be your daddy.
Hey, can I go pee now?
Red rum! Red rum! Red rum! Red rum! Stop it! Red rum! Red rum!
Welcome back. So, looks like we've got a little bit of a change of clothes. This is actually a couple of days after we watched The Shining. Kind of let everything marinate, let us really think on it, kind of gather our thoughts, because we did have a little bit of an in-depth discussion there, I guess, 2 hours.
2:20.
It was a while.
2:17, 2:22, something like that.
What? Oh, you're talking about the length I just meant the 2 hours after we sat there forever.
Well, we paused maybe twice at the movie to go pee or get something to eat or whatever. Or I did both of those things.
Yeah.
You had to stop because of me, if we're being honest.
It's okay.
During those times, I think we spent a good half hour in the middle of the movie discussing it thus far.
Yeah.
And then after, we stayed up till way later than you and I normally do.
Oh, God. We finished at midnight and probably went to bed at 2:30.
It probably.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad. Discussing the whole thing. So...
Got a little tuned up on it.
I was going to say, slightly raging a little bit.
May not be what you guys were expecting this review to be. Maybe it's exactly what you thought this review was going to be.
Yeah.
So do you want to jump in and give our thoughts on the movie itself, as far as I've got acting and shots and stuff like that written down, or do you want to go into some of our rage points?
Let's give it its due first.
Okay.
And then let's shoot it in its kneecap.
So for me, the acting was great. I really enjoyed Jack Nicholson's performance. I almost
You got
I had
Nicholson.
to think about it.
The whole movie, he's calling the man Jack Nicholas. Nicholas.
Jack Nicholas and Jack Townsend. I kept saying Townsend instead of Torrance.
Yeah.
But so Jack Nicholas and Shelley Duvall.
Nicholson.
Did I? I did it. I was trying to make sure I didn't do it.
That's so good.
So Jack and Shelley were great.
They really were.
I really enjoyed just his madness. He's such a great, crazy person.
He really is.
And Danny was good too. To be 8, 7? No, he was 7. Incredible. Hello, Mrs. Torrance.
That voice was perfect.
The shots, I found myself just looking at it and going, man, that's a great shot. And Stanley Kubrick, what are you gonna do? But just the overall composition, I loved. Let's see, the suspense and the overall feeling of the movie really put me I think from almost just about start to finish, I was on edge, and we'll touch on that in a minute.
Well, clearly the score, the music, it just right out of the gate.
Not
it
even
does
just
it to
the
you.
music, but the sound as well. When he's driving his tricycle from the carpet to the hardwood, to the carpet to the hardwood.
Right.
So good.
There's a swelling.
Yes. Now the story is where it kind of falls apart for me, and I'll let you have your 2 cents on this in a minute. But it was it was pretty good. I found a couple of points watching it going, what does this have to do with the overall story? And we had this conversation at one of our pause points, and you were like, well, we're only about halfway through, maybe a little less than halfway. Maybe we'll circle back to it, and it'll actually feel like it fit in the movie and had a purpose.
Right.
And I'm talking about the lady, the whole bathtub scene just felt so I feel like you could cut that from the movie and it really wouldn't change anything.
Right.
My opinion. So the story, I was pretty good with it, and I was enjoying it, and I was engrossed. And then that ending, it was the ending to end all endings. It was just, it happened, and I was just like, wait, that okay, okay. And then we looked it up to figure out what is this? What does the photograph mean? Jack being in this photograph,
Right.
And according to Kubrick, and you can have your own theories on this, it doesn't matter, because Kubrick said that Jack Torrance is a reincarnation of the previous caretaker that came through and murdered his own family way back when in the 1920s.
Right.
And that didn't really sit well with me. Just with the overall, it just felt like it was an odd, I don't know, it was just an odd choice.
Yeah.
And especially comparing it to the source material, which is its own thing anyways, getting into Kubrick and, Stephen King. I would have much rather gone with the source material, him absorbed by the hotel or something, the evilness of the hotel.
Right.
This whole reincarnation thing, one, just didn't really feel like it made sense to me. It just seemed so out of place. And I think it kind of killed the story a little bit. I think there could have been a better way to handle it.
Right.
He didn't have to go with the whole absorbed or whatever.
Yeah.
He could have gone any route, but just, I don't know.
That one was super questionable.
Yeah.
So, like you said, our reviews are going to be extremely similar, which we know this.
Yeah. Well, and we're also, just spoiler alert, we're not critics. We're just two guys watching this movie going, hey,
yeah,
do you like it or not?
Right. And we create and we have opinions, and my involvement in pro wrestling when it comes to telling a story and all of that, I come from a little mix of backgrounds. But the acting carried the movie, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Jack Nicholson's performance, if he wasn't already on the map, clearly it put him there.
Yeah.
Shelley Duvall,
She put me on edge watching it.
Right.
That energy really carried through. It was
nervousness, anxiety, kind of timid.
Yeah.
I think just timid overall was really good. But so the acting carried it for me. I enjoyed the shots too.
Yeah.
It's a theme, I feel like, with movies during that era, to have such a long, continuous shot.
Yeah.
And you've got the camera following your group, and I compared it to Halloween.
Yeah, you did.
Where you've got Dr. Loomis walking down the sidewalk with, I believe it was the sheriff, and he tells him the story of Michael, and it's flawless for, I don't know, a couple minutes at least, a few minutes.
That's when acting was like, you had to be on it,
Yeah, there weren't so many cuts, but so that to me was really cool. The shots. I believe the movie should have been called The Overlook Hotel, like we talked about.
Oh my God, yes.
Because we figured out that I'm going to touch on a sore spot for you. Yeah. Well, both of us.
Yeah, I've gotten it written down. Trust me. We're getting there.
Okay. Well, I'll save it. But it has to do with how little The Shining had to do with...
The Shining.
The Shining.
If you haven't seen it yet and you haven't watched it, go watch it and let us know what you think. I know there's some spoilers here, but if you've seen it, come on, you've got to...
It's literally just to help the audience.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it was for. Maybe that was the only tool that it was for.
Yeah.
But from a storytelling standpoint...
It was utterly useless.
It was pretty useless. The only thing that it did was signal Dick to...
It did signal Dick. It was fucking useless.
And that was... Yes. The other night's coming back to me all over again. It did get him to the mountain... And it did get him to bring the snowcat, which they escaped on.
So I would have much preferred it if they just cut out The Shining altogether and just made Dick just this really helpful guy. Maybe he really clicks with Danny. Maybe he somehow sees how abusive Jack is. He picks up on that. And so he just wants to check in on the family. And so he checks in periodically. He has no connection to him psychically. Just he checks in on him, calls and checks maybe every couple of days. And finally, one day he calls in and the lines are down and he can't get to him. And he's really worried because he knows, he's like, man, I just don't want Jack to hurt that kid or hurt that lady. Yeah. And so he can't get a hold of him. And then the park ranger can't get a hold of him. And so that's why he goes. That would have been so much better to me than this bullshit Shining.
Yeah.
Probably done better in the book, I'm sure, since it's called The Shining.
I mean, when you think about it from that perspective, it's if you had a hunch, a hunch, would you have went to all the measures that he did? I mean, he got on a plane.
Yeah.
He called his buddy. He drove a snowcat up a snowy mountain.
Yeah.
Like, if he would have just gotten a hunch from Jack,
I don't know.
That probably wouldn't have been enough.
Depends on how helpful Dick is. I mean, you can play it up that way in the story. Maybe he catches Jack grab Danny the wrong way or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like overly aggressive or something.
Maybe if he was
You could
closer.
make it work. It would have
You could make
worked
it
better than The Shining did, than the whole Shining subplot.
Right.
I think.
I guess it wouldn't have been. I can imagine viewers saying, "Well, it wouldn't have made it more as interesting."
Yeah.
But still, you could have made The Shining
Yeah.
more useful.
More useful. Yeah.
The Shining could have done a lot more than it did. But
So how does it then leading into that? How does that make you feel about the story?
the story, when it comes to Jack having a past,
Yeah.
in alcohol and all that,
Yeah.
that helps tie in to everything,
Yeah.
nicely. But at the same time, it, like you said, the whole reincarnation,
Yeah.
crap.
And
It just doesn't do it for me when it comes to. Yes, him being absorbed, that would have made so much sense.
Yeah.
Which I assumed was what was happening.
yeah. It's
And then
the
they
exact
wrote-
same face.
And then yes, that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's the exact same face. So the Indian burial ground spooky juice
Yeah.
recreated this man who looks identical to this
Yeah,
man
yeah.
from 1921,
Well, the
60
question
years
is
later.
what would have happened if the Overlook Hotel burned down in between 1920 and when this took place?
Right.
Well, he never would have gone back.
I mean, the Indian burial ground affecting the spirits above
Yeah.
ground, and then it affecting Jack or all the caretakers.
And let's not even get into the fact that, like, so Danny, you brought this up. Danny could see the ghost. Why? Because he had The Shining.
Yep.
Jack could see the ghost. Why? Because
He
he's
was-
apparently a reincarnation.
He was tied into the hotel.
Wendy could see the ghost because why the fuck not?
Right.
Why? What?
I feel like it's this old filmmaking just, hey, it happens.
Yeah.
Now it's not trying to hide.
Yeah.
It just shows itself.
Yeah. Well, and I know Dick does say at some point, he's like, everybody's got a little bit of The Shining in them. It just depends on how shiny they are. He says that at some point.
Does he
I remember-
really?
Yeah,
I
read
forgot
it.
about that.
I read it somewhere in like a quote or something, and I was like, oh, okay. But even still,
Yeah.
The Shining never really. So I wrote down, I was like, it shows us the future,
Yeah.
which is absolutely useless. It gives us nothing. It doesn't help any of the plot because Danny writes red rum on the door. Well, Jack's already tried to kill her once, so she knows she's being murdered. And then it just so happens Jack slams on the door again right there. I guess he's trying to warn her, hey, Jack's loose. She'd have found out anyways when he started banging on the door and swinging an axe at it.
Yeah.
It shows the past, which is useless because we get all the past information. Everything that it shows us in the movie is what the hotel owner has already told us.
Well, the future is useless because Danny never acts on anything.
Oh, yeah, he never does anything.
He
yeah.
never tells his mom anything about it. And the only thing that helped, the only thing that was even close was trying to warn Dick that
That's
Jack
what I
was going to kill him.
I was going to say reading minds and telepathy, useless.
Right. The
Yeah.
one time it almost came in clutch. It was too late.
And so apparently Danny was actively trying to reach out to Dick in that moment.
Right.
To me, everything that we've seen of the whole movie is he loses control and has no control over it.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed he was having to witness this in terror. I didn't realize he was trying to reach out to Dick.
That's what I assumed too.
Yeah, I thought he was just like having to watch it.
Until we
read somewhere, yeah.
Right.
We had to do a whole lot of homework
Which,
on this.
if somebody goes, well, no, that was the truth. Okay, even or that was the situation.
What did it do?
Danny could only watch it unwillingly.
Yeah.
All right, even more useless.
Yeah.
It just terrorizes poor Danny.
Yeah, so I do want to at least circle back and say I did enjoy the movie for what it was. Like I enjoyed watching it. It was a hell of a ride.
I enjoyed the ride.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Now, we get into so we've got Curtis here, our little gumball machine. For those of you that are listening, for you watching, you get to see this. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in my 2 cents as to what I rate the movie. So this is going to be out of a 5. So I've got 5 gumballs here, 5 blue balls for me, so that we can really keep track of who rated what. I'm going to give it 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 gumballs out of 5. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it enough that I don't feel dissatisfied from having seen it. Like it's
Right.
nothing. It's not one of those where I'm like, God, that was a waste of 2 hours. No, that was a hell of a 2 hours. I didn't like the way it ended, and it kind of soured a little bit of the story for me. But I enjoyed the movie.
Right. Same on my end. The ending, it's so funny because remember you and I looked back, and you're watching this now for the first time.
Yeah.
Looked back, and I said, surely he doesn't just, how did I put it? He just stops in the snow and freezes to death, or he just,
I think I was like, I don't see in any I was like, I don't see in any scenario where he just dies.
Yeah.
Like I was like, he has to be trapped.
Yeah.
Like Shelley has to trap him. There's no in no scenario does he just stand still and die.
Right. No.
He does. Well, no, he doesn't.
He doesn't. He gets tired and he falls down.
Yeah. Now to that point, bum leg. He's got a wound. Like he's got a head wound. He's been chasing Danny around, and at that point, maybe he get. Now this is a point that I made, talking about. I didn't put your rating in there.
Okay, so despite the ending, despite Kubrick making a slight abomination of Stephen King's original writing, it could have been so much better. It's incredible that this movie is as highly revered as it is.
Well, I read apparently it wasn't very well received when it was released. Like the critics kind of shit on it.
Oh, well, I could see it totally. However, for a movie, let's just say it was a standalone movie. The book did not exist. The journey for what it was during its time, and the way it flowed, and as iconic as it is, I'm giving it a very, very reluctant 4.
Okay.
My brain says 3.
Yeah.
My heart says 4.
Yeah. Too bad we can't do 3.5. Well, you could do 3.5. You could pop the bottom off and drop it in there.
Just drop the red.
Yeah. Just drop the red.
I'll give it a 3.5.
Yeah. I was just thinking. I was like, how are we going to do 3.5?
Yeah.
But yeah. Just pop that bottom off.
I'll get to when we get to the yellow.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it.
Uh-oh.
Poop.
So, briefly, oh God, what was I going to say? I've lost it.
It's like I lost half of my ball.
Yeah, well, it happens. Now that you've given the 3.5 stars, what I was going to say about Jack is, there was a certain point, and especially this kind of drilled it home for me, is when he started chasing after Danny and his wife, when he left her in the bathroom, when he just walked away, he had pretty much broken through the door, and then he just up and walked away. Mm-hmm. That's when it kind of realized to me that they were in no danger at all. It like he could have killed her and then went after Danny, and he just decided to go after Danny, which was weird.
Right.
And then instead of actively like really trying to chase Danny, like he just kind of lumbered behind him. Like, granted, he's got a bum leg, but the dude is what, 30?
Yeah.
I feel like he could outsmart an 8-year-old. All he's doing is following the footsteps. And like you said, if I'm trying to kill somebody, I'm not going to be shouting behind him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's going, Daddy! The whole time. And it started thinking, like, because the ghost looks at him and goes, he's getting ready to let him out of the storage room. And he goes, we just, we don't really think you have your heart's in it. We don't think your heart's in it. And I think they were right. And I think that was a little bit of foreshadowing. I don't think his heart was in it. I don't think he was going to kill his wife and kid.
Right.
And I think that ties back into, because I read something about, like, because it was odd to me that what he's typing on the typewriter is all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Over and over and over. And it's just an odd, like, they could have picked anything. He could have, like I said, he could have been typing Sally sells seashells down by the seashore. It doesn't matter. They picked that proverb or whatever for a reason, and that proverb's kind of about, like, I guess growing up or something. I don't know, whatever we read.
You think it was just him
I think he was playing a game. Yeah, I think
in his demented state.
I genuinely, like, that's my theory on it.
Okay.
I don't think they were in any danger at all. I think he just cracked and that was just him. I know that sounds weird.
Yeah.
But, like, it just, either that or, it's trying to build suspense. But, I mean, he chased Danny around in that maze for 20 minutes. 20 long minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And then, like,
that's what makes the ending so bad for me.
And then Danny, like, stops and then steps back into his footsteps and then sweeps off the path a little bit and dives in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. I feel like he could have looked for Danny a little harder right there at that point. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know. That's my shtick, and I'm going with it. He was playing.
Yeah.
It all ties into this kind of theme of, like,
I just wonder if it was not shot well enough to convey that he actually was trying to hurt them.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't. Jack. It was
Yeah,
the evil.
yeah.
It was the spirit that
That's
took
right,
him
yeah.
over. But so
Well, that's the question too. Did the spirit take him over, or was it always there? I mean, he's shown clearly to be abusive towards Danny. What, broke his arm or dislocated his shoulder or something?
yeah, well, he did that without an evil spirit.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this being Jack
Yeah.
Torrance, if it just picked him because he was the perfect combination of his like.
Yeah.
Okay, so the spirit latched on to a few of the caretakers, or
Yeah.
the evilness latched onto a couple of the caretakers.
Yeah.
And they ran away, or
Well, I was gonna say none of this stuff apparently ever really happened. I feel like that would have come up like, hey, there's some weird freaky shit in the hotel that happens over the winter. No, it's just somebody got killed here once,
yeah,
and then it just so happens to happen to Jack again,
right,
or Jack. It happens again to Jack
right,
a second time.
okay,
Yeah, not
well,
again.
Well,
together.
not Grady.
Yeah.
I can't remember the first name, but last name Grady.
Grady. Yeah,
So, and that's the problem with the reincarnation. It's different name, but it's
Yeah.
the same physical being. You would
Yeah, I
think
don't-
reincarnation, it would be the opposite.
yeah. It doesn't matter what he. Yeah.
It would be the same name, different person,
Well, not
or
necessarily.
not necessarily the same
Yeah,
name.
it's same spirit inside of it. It doesn't matter what the body looks like.
Right.
Is the thing.
So I noticed the theme, and the theme was whatever Jack saw immediately.
Yeah.
I think so. Your problem was with the woman in the bathtub.
Yeah.
So I don't. It doesn't get to me. It didn't get to me as bad as it did
Yeah.
you. And one of the reasons was because it just, to me, it was just there to display the evil that was 237.
Yeah.
And the other reason is that I think it was a demonstration of what Jack saw as Grady back then,
Yeah.
as a young woman,
Yeah.
and what they would look like maybe now, like
Yeah.
what the evil spirit is now.
Yeah.
Just like with all of the people
Yeah.
in the ballroom, how they looked, and then when Wendy
Yeah.
happened upon them, now they're skeletons with
Yeah.
cobwebs.
I just wonder when I guess she killed herself. There's no clarification there. She was just in the bathtub dead.
Right.
And we would have to determine if she killed herself as an old woman or as a young woman, because then you see, I'm assuming it's Grady, his brother. I don't. That
Yeah.
I probably could have paid a little bit more attention there. I still didn't really
That's a little
fully understand that.
I'm fuzzy on that too.
The butler. We see him again with his head split open when he talks to Wendy.
Right.
And
What happened with him?
yeah, why didn't he age up, or why wasn't he that's my question. If so,
Yeah.
it would hold true if she killed herself as an old woman, but if she killed herself like young or however she died in the bathtub,
Why do we think she killed herself?
she was just in the bathtub. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I just assumed like. To me, for some reason, it looked like she had burns or something. I thought she dropped a toaster in there. Like, that was my first thought when I saw her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she's the woman haunting the bathtub.
Right.
She was either drowned in there by somebody,
Yeah.
or somebody dropped the toaster on her. Like, when she's an old woman, she's got, like, these weird just marks on her skin.
Yeah.
And it looks, I don't know, just, yeah, my first thought was, man, she got electrocuted.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't really think about. I didn't really get wrapped up in like maybe how they died. Just that they were beings from before,
Yeah.
and now here they are now.
maybe
No
I
matter
thought too much into it.
no matter what happened to them. One thing we won't get into,
Yeah.
and we'll let everybody do their own research if
Yeah.
you really want to dive into this particular scene.
Yeah.
But
The dog.
the dog in the furry, the
yeah.
human dog suit.
That was useless. That was such a pointless shot. Like, it was disturbing. Don't
Well,
get me wrong.
If the meaning behind it that we found
Oh, well,
online
yeah.
was the intentions
Yeah.
of Kubrick
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
to get that across, then there's next to no way for your average viewer to just,
no, just
pick up
click,
on that.
yeah.
For it to just click, you'd have to analyze it 100 times to even try to come up with something close. But look it up
Yeah.
on your own, or don't. Save yourself.
I also put like, and I thought about this after the fact. Like, gave it a couple days and thought about this, but I was ready for so. I was nervous. I was anxious. I was in suspense. And then around the hour and 40 mark, somewhere around the time that Wendy comes down the stairs with the baseball bat and finds Jack's writing, I was ready for this movie to be over. I was sitting there and I was like, God, I wish he would just snap. I wish we could see the "Here's Johnny" scene and figure out how he freezes to death and just be done.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, maybe that was Kubrick's intention with Wendy and how on edge she is. I was like, I wonder if just that energy, I felt that the whole time. And at this point in the movie, when she goes down there, she is done.
She's ready to leave.
ready for it to be over.
She's ready to get out, and so are we.
I started thinking about it, and I was like, it's just interesting that at the time that she was like, I'm done, I'm out of here, I want this to be over, I also was, I'm done, I'm ready for this to be over, I want out of here, I want out of this fucking hotel.
Yeah.
So that can kind of be like, that was a negative point for me, but now that I'm looking at it in that light, maybe that wasn't his intention, maybe I really just was tired of it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a cool way to look at it, like maybe I followed that same energy. And I was ready to escape as well.
It really, with all these things being talked about, and with there being so much to analyze, it almost makes you want to go relive it just to see how you feel again.
Yeah, but I'm not. No.
Yeah.
I feel like that's another to our point is I feel like some of it could have just been cut. If they'd have trimmed some of the fat, like we could have cut down probably
you and I both
a good 20 to 30 minutes of this movie.
You and I both agreed that 30 minutes of fluff could have been cut out.
Yeah. I think the maze scene could have been just as suspenseful at 5 minutes instead of 20.
Absolutely 5 minutes.
And with Kubrick and how good of a director he is, he could have absolutely made that happen.
Well, it really makes me question things because he didn't. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
But
now here, let's dive into this too. One kind of final thought. We both talked about Jack and how from the get-go, as soon as we see him in the car, he is insane. Like you already
after
get
the
that
interview.
inkling. Yeah, after the interview. Like as soon as he gets in the car and he's talking with Danny.
When he gets with his family.
Yeah. So it's funny we say that because Stephen King felt the exact same way. So, save for the sole commentary that he, King, was disappointed with Jack Nicholson's portrayal of Jack Torrance, as he thought he had been insane before his arrival at the Overlook Hotel. Jack was not. Jack is just a very simple, meager man that struggles with alcoholism. Mm-hmm. But that's it.
And say, okay, we were both disappointed in his character progression.
Oh, there was none. There was no, like, we wanted this slow descent into madness, which, spoiler alert, is apparently how it happens in the book. There was none of that. I mean, from the get-go, Jack Nicholson...
When you see him in the car with Danny and Wendy, he's got this look on his face.
Yeah.
That's just maddening.
Well, and it's in such stark contrast to, well, yes, sir, I'll be here. Yes, sir.
Well, if you're having a cup of coffee, then I'll have one with you.
Yeah, which makes you believe and lends to the thought that he was putting on a show. That's not Jack Torrance.
Right.
That was a front. That is not the real Jack Torrance.
Right. Well, and then it's like you go from that. A little bit happens. He's in the hotel, and the most polite he is to Wendy, his wife.
Yeah.
The light of his life.
Of my life.
He was in the... Now, that was honestly probably the coolest scene for me. Wendy.
I didn't know it was from the movie. So that was something we talked about. I've heard it in the Set to Stun song.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that. Like, it's just such a cool moment in that song. And so to go, when he started and you're like, here it is. And I was like, here's what? And then I started hearing it and I was like, wait, light of my life. And I was like, oh, wait, I know this quote. Like, I didn't know it was from The Shining. That was a cool moment for me.
That's cool. But to see him go from him in the hotel with Wendy, she goes, well, now that you're out here in peace and quiet, you can turn that creative side of your brain on. And he's still, even then, you were saying how he was nice to her.
Nice in his own Jack way.
Yeah. He was still, Wendy, I can just turn it on.
Yeah.
Like...
And with that, we see 2 scenes later. I think it's like 2 scenes later. It's not much later. Within 10 minutes of the movie, we see Jack staring out the window.
Within 10 minutes of the movie?
Like within 10 minutes, like...
Of that scene.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Like at least 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
He's just staring out the window.
And it's like the madness is already hit.
It's already full-blown hit. Like he's catatonic.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember if this happened before or after that, but him why don't you leave me the fuck alone then and get the fuck out? Like, that whole contrast there.
If we could have had, that would have meant
Yeah.
so much more.
Later.
It makes you, later. If it makes you wonder, is that just him? Is he? But I mean, I guess it is good that we got to see him staring, and it's like, okay, he's mad now.
Yeah, it just, for me, it felt so out of place, and it was just, I hated that scene because the scene before it is him. That may have even, no, I think the scene before that was him throwing the fucking ball against the wall, like goofing off and not riding.
Now, see that.
So he's goofing off, not riding. We cut to them going outside and exploring the hedge maze or something. He looks at the hedge maze. We see him being crazy looking at the hedge maze. Then they're like coming back in, and he's like doing the Kubrick stare at the window.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird like.
I don't mind that him flipping out on Wendy was after the long stare.
Yeah.
I just think that long stare should have came way later.
Yeah.
Or there should have.
It was like Jack is somewhat normal. There's something wrong with him. Jack is fucking demented. Jack is kind of somewhat normal. Maybe his mood is a little heightened.
Yeah.
He's a little tense, but he's pretty much, he's pretty normal. And that's kind of how we carry it through the rest of the movie until 237 is opened up, and then it starts to peak.
Well, okay, so no matter what, I think he peaked. He went crazy a little too early.
Oh yeah.
There was no hinting. It was just bam. He's
Or
staring.
not peak, but crescendo. It starts going up like 237, and after that room is open,
Yeah.
he just plummets.
Right. I think. I think like you did this and then you went down. I mean, well, that's a roller coaster.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
that's not a roller coaster. That's a pitfall.
Well-
it's a difference.
Well, yeah. You said. Well, then he comes back up with the ball.
Yeah.
So I think like the ball up against the wall.
Yeah.
That was a good build up. That
Yeah.
was a good. Oh, maybe he's going crazy.
I just took it as him goofing off and not doing like him. He was just throwing the ball like he was not working,
Yeah.
which is hilarious. In contrast to him typing out all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, because he fucked off quite a bit.
Well, him throwing that ball, I guess. Okay. To put it in perspective,
Yeah.
from somebody from this era,
Yeah.
looking back, throwing a ball against a wall,
Yeah.
is like. Not a lot of people would do that.
Yeah.
Not when you've got technology the way it is.
Yeah.
Back then, I guess it probably would have been a little more acceptable as something
that's
to
just
do
he
to
was
pass
passing
time.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the way he was throwing the ball,
Yeah.
the motions, that energy he was putting into
Yeah.
it. It was kind of this sarcastic, like, son of a whore, throwing the
You
ball.
know, I got a different vibe. It felt more like a child to me
Yeah.
when he like threw he like jumped or something and threw it like this weird.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was playing very aggressive, like a child. Like he was excited to be throwing that ball. Is the vibe that I got. Like he was so excited to be in this empty house with nobody, and supposed to be doing work, but instead he was fucking off with this ball.
I like the way he conveyed it for me.
Yeah, it's
or
so
the way,
funny.
The way
That's
I
funny.
received it was that little jump.
Yeah.
Was like a sarcastic jump.
Oh, that's
like,
hilarious.
Look at me. I'm in this place all by myself throwing this ball. This sucks. Like his whole character to me screamed
Yeah.
that it was sarcastic, and he's doing it kind of to let
Yeah.
off some steam, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it just his whole character screamed sarcasm.
That's so funny because for me, he seemed so excited to be, like, I don't know. I just took it as excitement. Like he was
Yeah.
just happy to be there, and he was just killing time. And this is the best thing he could be doing right now is throwing that ball.
And well, I think if Wendy would have walked in during that time,
Oh God.
it would have been just as bad.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if he was focused and working or if he
Yep.
was playing. I'm trying to let off steam. Can I
Yeah.
not let off a little steam?
Yeah.
But I think that it should have. I think after the stare, that it was good timing for him to release on Wendy
Yeah.
and let her have it.
Yeah.
And that scene is so iconic because it's relatable. If you've ever been talked down to,
Yeah.
or you've ever lost your temper with somebody,
Yeah.
that scene screams at you.
Yeah.
It screams emotion.
So
And I appreciated that.
one
That
final
was
wrap
really
up
cool.
on Jack. So King was of the opinion that due to casting of Nicholson, who was well known for playing unstable characters, Jack in the film is very much on the edge when the story begins, and the character does not possess the inner goodness so vital to Jack of the novel. King wanted to cast someone who could play the character as more genial in the early stages, and apparently he was very keen on Jon Voight. He was also hugely disappointed that the themes of the evils of alcoholism and the disintegration of the family unit were relatively unimportant in the film due to his own battle with alcoholism, and because of this personal investment in that aspect of the film, he was largely disheartened by it. And that can tie right into this next quote from Kubrick in an interview with Michael, Ciment? C-I-M-E-N-T. I don't know film critics. Kubrick states, "The novel, The Shining, is by no means a serious literary work, but the plot is for the most part extremely well worked out, and for a film, that's often all that really matters."
Wow.
So obviously we see why those weren't included in the film, because Kubrick didn't give a shit about them. He thought they were
Wow. So, however, that being said, something that somebody pointed out online, or a review that I read, the whole movie symbolizes a cyclical
abuse.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Relationship. I mean, it's all symbolizing a cycle.
Family curse.
Yeah.
Like a family, if you want to call it a curse.
Yeah.
A family curse that alcoholism is passed down.
Yeah.
And
or abuse, whatever kind.
It could be anything from substance abuse to adultery to divorce. Divorce can be considered a family curse that just it keeps happening.
Yeah.
Keeps happening. And this film was supposed to be a representation of that.
Yeah.
Was that Mr. Grady, he had issues with alcohol.
Yeah.
That's shown in the film by Torrance, who's supposed to be Grady incarnate, going to Louis at the bar.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to be what that is. It's symbolism of this cyclical curse that just keeps going through time, and it was not broken.
Yeah.
In this film, it was not a happy movie.
No,
by
it wasn't.
any stretch.
I like that.
I do too.
I do kind of enjoy that it didn't have a happy ending.
Right. Well, the good people, good people got away. The quote
but
bad
still,
guy got.
You know, it's sad what happened to Jack. However you cut it, like that's
well, and in the book,
it's always tragic.
From what I understand, Jack was trying to tell Danny to get away in his last moments of his life.
Yep, and I guess he sacrificed himself, and the boiler room blew up or something.
He's going to sacrifice himself.
But one final thought, just to throw it out there. Apparently, Danny's Shining much more powerful in the books. According to a source.
Imagine that The Shining meaning something.
Yeah. Oh, what do you thought? Anyways, that any final thoughts? Anything else?
I mean, I guess overall, like, despite what our comments are, look how much time we've spent talking and breaking down this movie.
This is supposed to be 30 minutes.
I will say this, and you and I both agreed.
Yeah.
Within the opening scene of the movie, I think we both felt it. We watched that movie very differently than we would have had we not been doing this series.
Absolutely.
Setting out to review it. And I got to say, I probably enjoyed it a lot more. I looked at it, dissected it a lot
we really
more.
Did.
And I enjoyed that ride so much.
Yep.
And what a crazy movie to do that with.
Our first movie. What a great movie to break into this podcast with.
Right. And what a great, sensation that was to be doing this with The Shining.
Yep.
We might look at another movie and 20 minutes in go, I wish I could disconnect myself from dissecting this. I just want to suspend disbelief and enjoy it for what it is.
I just want to like it.
Right.
All right.
Those are my thoughts.
My final thought is go watch the movie. If you haven't watched it yet, it is well worth the ride, despite everything that we've said here, any kind of criticism that we've had. It is a hell of a movie to watch. It's fun. And especially if you disconnect yourself from everything that we've just pointed out, like if you just don't really think about it that much, you just go in with the expectation of being entertained. Yeah. It is an entertaining movie.
It really is.
I think we went into it dissecting it and looking at every piece. If we had just watched this watching it, I don't know if we'd have come to that conclusion going, man, what a shit ending that the whole reincarnation. We probably went, reincarnation.
Yeah, that's cool.
The answer.
That's cool. Reincarnation.
Which I saw that picture or that picture. I thought it was a death loop. I thought he was just stuck in a death loop, that he was already dead,
Right.
and he just kept reliving this. Jack Torrance just kept reliving this torture. I thought that was the
Yeah.
answer to the movie. I thought that's what it was. It was just his death loop, or his hell, whatever.
Right. That's fascinating.
Yep. I was wrong. So 4 plus 3.5 gumballs out of 5, that gives this a 7.5 out of 10. So I think that's not bad to go check this movie out.
Now,
What would you rate it?
Do you agree with us? Did you
Yeah.
disagree with us? Are we full of crap? Should we have just
Probably.
enjoyed the movie for what it was? Did we take a masterpiece and just, I don't know.
Shit all over it. Probably.
Yeah. But we did give it its due.
Yeah. No.
There was just a lot more poo-pooing to be done.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't cover all of it in this podcast.
No, we broke down so much,
We
and
did.
I mean, almost darn near every scene.
Yeah.
At some point we broke down, and yeah, there's a lot we didn't touch on that we talked about. But let's have that discussion in the comments or on Twitter.
Yep.
Where can they find us?
They can find us at Official CS Pod as of right now. That is due to change at some point. We may branch this off into its own podcast. Who knows? But right now, it's just a subsect of the CS Podcast. So yeah, if you're here hanging out, we've got podcast Fridays and Mondays.
Yeah, like, subscribe.
Yeah.
So, biggest question?
Yeah. What are we watching next?
No.
Second biggest question.
Second biggest question, because I guess that would be the biggest
Yeah.
question.
What I
These yellow balls
Yeah.
are going to go in there if we would watch this movie again.
Yeah.
So
Just purely. Now you had a little caveat, but purely for me, it's purely would I sit down and want to watch this again for entertainment purposes? Did I enjoy it enough that I go, I want to watch that again? For me, not really. I think I got everything out of it that I needed to get. I'm having more fun. I'm not gonna say more fun, but I'm having a lot of fun picking it apart, like
Same.
looking up stuff and going, oh, okay, this meant that meant that. But like as for watching it again, I think I've had my ride. I know what's going to happen. I don't think it's going to have me as suspense filled. You know, I just don't.
yeah,
He's kind of showed his hand through the movie, and I know it now. You know?
yeah.
I know what's going to happen. I know who's going to pop out where. Like,
So for me, while I was watching the movie, I told myself, I don't get that sensation to want to watch a movie over that often. I mean,
Yeah.
very few. Like recently, I watched The Dark Knight.
oh, nice.
And probably actually watched it all the way through, probably for like the 5th or 6th time.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a big deal because I just don't rewatch movies. That
Yeah.
time that I'm going back and watching, I could be on a new adventure.
Mm-hmm.
With this, I found myself saying, maybe I'd play it in the background.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sit down and completely watch it again.
Yeah.
Or I would sit down and watch it with somebody else who had never seen it before.
Yeah. Now that I could do.
Right. But for me, I think this question should be, would I sit down and watch it again just for my own
Yeah,
entertainment?
Just to watch it again and experience it again.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I
Same.
wouldn't. So, our yellow balls are staying put.
Yep. So no yellow balls in there, but those are bonus balls. Those are bonus points.
Yeah.
We could potentially have a movie that is 12 out of 10.
That's true.
Yeah. That's
Ooh.
kind of our rating system right now. So
Yeah.
4 gumballs, 3.5 gumballs makes that 7.5 gumballs out of 10. Go watch the movie. And what are we going to watch next? I think the next movie on the list, if we go by the list, and I'm cool with this, is Blade Runner.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm cool with that because we'll circle back to the trivia. If you waited this long and haven't done your homework, shame on you. But if you have done your homework, you know what I'm talking about. Apparently, those shots that you were talking about being reused in another film, Blade Runner. I know Blade Runner used those. I don't know if that was exactly the film from the commentary that you heard, but I read it that, yeah, Blade Runner used
if
it.
you don't remember from the beginning of
opening.
this video, or you skip to the end, or just skip to the discussion, there was aerial footage used in The Shining.
Yep.
That was there was aerial footage caught on the shooting of
Yep.
The Shining. Can't remember the location's name, but
I don't remember.
it was reused. The director of Blade Runner
Yep.
called up Kubrick and said, hey, you have any leftover footage of The Shining? And Kubrick said, yeah, I got about a week's worth.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, what? He said, yeah, so here you go. It was not reused from The Shining to Blade Runner, but there was unused.
Kubrick's, he was like, just don't use any of the footage that was in the film. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
And there should be plenty there. You shouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, so fun fact for you, moving into the next movie we're going to watch.
Yeah, keep
I'm
a lookout
down.
for that. I think if I read it correctly, I think it was they even used some shots of the Beetle or the Volkswagen that he was driving. I don't think it was a Beetle.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which is an odd choice. So if we're watching Blade Runner, we'll know when we watch it. Go, hey, that's Jack Torrance driving around down there, not Harrison Ford.
Right. That's wild.
All right. Well, with that being said, I think that's going to do it for us here at the old Who Hasn't Seen That?
We have now.
We have now. And if you watched along with us for the first time, now you can say it too.
Hey, look at you. Look at you being all, I don't know. What's the word? Initiative.
Initiative.
You took initiative.
Well, that is the first on the list of all the movies that we should have seen by now. Just knocking them out one movie at a time.
That's right.
Yep.
With that being said, I've been the Scottish Shush Puppy, and I got some food to go eat.
And until then, my ghastly gang, stay spooky.
Who that? Who that? Who that?